When all of our appliances keep breaking around the house, I like to just come down and play the blues. So today we're going to talk about how you can solo over a 12-bar blues. And I just did a lesson teaching you how to play a blues shuffle, so if you want to check that out, I'll link it right here. And that'll be the backing track that we're going to use for this lesson. Some basics when soloing over the blues is focusing on your phrasing and trying to add some repetition. And let me demonstrate what I mean. It's a simple outline that I wanted to talk to you about today. And it's really to work on phrasing and get melodic ideas and start using repetition to kind of build your solo in a 12-bar blues. And another tip for 12-bar blues is that you can always use bending, you can always use double stops, which is playing two notes at once, and you should always use an overdrive pedal because overdrive and the blues are great. And the reason all these things work is because blues is all about tension, and all of those create tension. On this channel, we're trying to get better at guitar, so if that's something you're into, then please like and subscribe. So first things first, when you have that first bar of the blues, it's just an E shuffle. And that's all it is, right? So that E chord is suggesting like an E7 chord. So that's why the E minor pentatonic scale works perfect over it. And we're just using that first form of the pentatonic scale where it's open 3, open 2, open 2, open 2, open 3, open 3. And then we're adding in that extension onto the second form, which is on your G, B, and high E string, 2, 4, 3, 5, 3, 5. And I might have slid up from 5 to 7 there on your high E string. So those are the notes we're using, right? And the first idea is just the phrase. You need to make a phrase, so you don't want to just endlessly noodle over everything, which we love to do. It's very easy to play a lot of notes. It's hard to constrain yourself and not play a lot of notes. Your first bar is going to be choosing whatever your idea is going to be, your first phrase. And then your second bar is going to do a variation off of that. So something like that, right? And that's going to leave you space too. And then you're on to your third bar, and your third bar can either be an exact repeat of your first bar, or it can be another variation off of it. So it's just a general outline to get you to you're now in your third bar, and you're going to have one bar left after that. So you could do something like, and then that would be your third bar, right? And that's just another variation, kind of. It's the same notes, it sounds similar. So that something like that's going to work. So that's your general idea. And then once you get to your fourth bar, you're free to noodle again. So finally, we can noodle again. Thank God. You can just do whatever you want. You just play any notes within that scale. And then the idea after that is that you have to go to your 4 chord. So your 4 chord is the next 2 bars, and the 4 chord, you want to outline that change to the 4 chord. So you need to know where your 4 notes are, which is your A chord, right, in this instance. So we know we have an A note on the open A string. Then we have an A note here on the second fret of your A string, or of your G string, second fret of your G string. And then you have an A note down here on the 5th fret of your high E string. So the cool thing about this little riff, when you add in the 5th fret on your D string, you're adding in the 7th of this. You're making this a 7th chord. So you have all the 7th notes as an option here, and your 7 is just a whole step down the neck from your 1. So your A is your 1, your 7 is a whole step down, which means your open G string would be your 7. And the reason I'm telling you that is because then you have your 4 chord, your 1 of your 4 chord, and you have your 7 of your 4 chord right there. So you can really use that open G string to your advantage here, and use that when you're doing a little idea. So what you want to do, if you were coming from the top, the idea is just to get to your 4. Somehow get to your 4 and try and create an idea there if you can. If you can do another phrased idea, then that's great. But you really just want to recognize that chord changed to 4. This is really going to help with your ear training and just being able to hear the chord changes as you're playing over them. So once you have that 4 chord, you can go back to you're going to go back to your E chord for 2 bars, which is your 1 chord. And there's a couple things you can do here. I mean, you're free to noodle, but if you don't want to get lost, you should try and go back to that original idea that you had. So once you get off of that 4 chord, you'd want to go back to this idea. You know, some variation of that idea to get yourself grounded again, right? To get back into it. And you could noodle through this, but you might get lost in where you're at. So this outline is going to keep you kind of knowing where you are, right? Because you just played the 4 chord for 2 bars. Now you're going back to the E chord, and you don't want to just start endlessly noodling again and get lost. So this is where we'd be from the top. So we got back and played a variation of the idea, right? And then you have your 5 chord coming up. So just like the 4 chord, you want to make sure you hit this change, right? And you know where your 5 chords are. Well, you have a 5. Your 5 chord in this instance is a B chord. B chord to an A chord. So you have a 5 right here on the 2nd fret of your A string. You have a 5 down here on the 4th fret of your G string. Then you have a 5 all the way down here on that 7th fret of your high E string. You want to focus on those notes. Same thing, it's a 7th chord idea, right? So you could use that open A string along with the 2nd fret of your A string. When you're down here, you can use that 2nd fret of the G string. That's going to be your 7. You know, dealer's choice here. You could use the 4th or the 5th fret down here on your high E string. And those notes are options to you. And then the idea here is when you get to that 5 chord, you can add in, you know, we're playing a minor pentatonic. You can add in your minor 3rd here, which is what I did. Just want to tell you that. And all that is it's just this note right here on the 3rd fret of your B string. It's right out of your B minor chord. And then same thing for the A chord when you get to it. So you want to do an idea on that B chord. And And then you can do a similar idea on that 4 chord when you go to it. So it's really gonna, you know, gel those together. And that 4 chord would just, that minor third of that 4 chord would just be that first fret of the B string. After that comes the turnaround, but you know, we'll do this from the top. All right, screwed that turnaround up a little bit, but what you can do is you can do the turnaround. I teach you how to play that turnaround, which is in the lesson where I teach you the rhythm part of this. So you can watch that video to learn that exact turnaround. Or what you can do is you can just do whatever you want. Because what the turnaround is, it's a 1 chord for 1 bar, and then it's a 5 chord for 1 bar. And when I say you can do whatever you want, you can do whatever you want for 1 bar. We have restrictions here. You can't just do whatever you want all the time. So for that 1 bar, you can do whatever you want, which I think all I was doing was playing around with this open 2 on the G and the D string. You know, something like that with some hammer-ons, pull-offs. And then when you get to that 5 chord, you really need to get back to that 5 chord. So you can go back to the 5 chord down here. And it's gonna, you know, suggest that you're going back to that 5 chord, and that's what you wanna do. And this is the last bar. What I like to do with a blues, I always like to end the blues on that 5 chord with that little walk up, which would be 0, 1, 2, get you to your 5 chord. And that's your B, and then I'm just grab a B7 right here. Which, if you don't know what that B7 is, it's just 2nd fret on your A, 1st fret on your D, and then 2nd fret on your G string. And then you can let the other notes ring out or mute them however you feel. But that's the idea there, right, is just as that turnaround comes. And then you're right back into it. So we'll just do the whole thing from the top. So that's it. That's a 12-bar blues right there. And this is just an outline solo idea so you can keep track of where you are and you don't just endlessly noodle over the whole thing. If you want to learn an easy way to create melodies while you're soloing, then watch this video right here.